Hi, I'm Edward Chang. I'm a neuromuscular massage therapist in the state of California, and today we're going to be discussing a little bit about lactic acid, and specifically the lactic acid cycle. Now, there are so many misconceptions I've been hearing about lactic acid, and mostly from massage therapists and personal trainers. The two biggest things that you're going to probably hear is that lactic acid is a toxin, and number two, lactic acid is stored in your muscles and your knots. So let me go ahead and start clarifying that really quickly, and let's go ahead and go through this diagram. Now, I know right here it says Cori cycle. That's what us biologists call it. For common terms, it's called lactic acid cycle. Now, I know there's a lot of these names here. Don't worry about it. They're only for people that really want to know more details. They can go ahead and look this up and read all about it. But for most of you, you probably don't care, so don't worry about the names. I'll protect you from the names. Don't worry. They're not going to eat you or anything. Okay? Don't be scared of these names. I'll protect you. You'll be fine. We're going to walk through this diagram very nice and slow. Okay? So don't worry. Now, let's go ahead and start with food. I eat food. Correct? I do eat food. I eat the food. What happens to the food? It gets converted into a usable energy source, and it gets stored somewhere. So first thing happens, it gets converted into glucose, and it gets stored in the liver. Glucose is a form of sugar. Don't worry about it. It's not table sugar. Do not go chugging down table sugar. You go doing that, I'm going to smack you, and I'm going to be like, oh my god, I'm concerned for your health. After I just smacked you. I know that's contradictory, but I'll be concerned for your health. So please don't go chowing down table sugar. This is a form of sugar, okay? And it exists in your food. So please, no chugging down table sugar. That'll be scary. I'll be very concerned for your health at that point. And I want you to go see a doctor for sure. Maybe a psychiatrist. So, here you go. You have glucose. It's stored in the liver. What happens is that glucose, when your muscles contract, it needs it because it needs energy. So what happens? It goes into the bloodstream. The bloodstream delivers it to the muscle, and the muscle goes, hey, hi, sugar. Let me go ahead and turn you into a usable form. That's called glycolysis. Glycolysis happens, and we got pyruvate. Pyruvate can go now two directions. It's the elementary molecule that can be used. At this point, it will produce sugar into pyruvate. Pyruvate can go into two directions. The first direction is if there is presence of oxygen, it will automatically go for this path if it is available. If there is oxygen, it will automatically go ahead and convert itself into energy. I just denoted energy with an E because there is more energy forms than ATP. And let's not go into that. That's another subject altogether. So don't go into that, okay? So don't worry about it. But here you go. Here's pyruvate. It gets converted into energy if the oxygen is present. If it is not, it'll produce lactate, a derivative of lactic acid. Lactic acid formation. Ta-da! Lactic acid is formed. This is only going to happen if there is no oxygen. It's just like alcohol. You put the yeast in, you put the sugar in, you close the bottle, you have a little bit of an air vent just so that the thing doesn't blow up on you, and you get some alcohol. It's the same kind of process. And that may be where people get mistaken that it's a toxin, because alcohol is a toxin, so why isn't lactic acid a toxin? Well, let me show you. Lactic acid is not a toxin. Do you know why? Look, lactic acid has to get reuptake into the liver. How? It goes in the bloodstream. Does it anywhere in this diagram does it say this produces a toxin? I read chemistry. I know that sounds strange, especially for someone that's a chemistry major. We're like, what the heck did you just say? Because that sounds weird. But essentially, you read the reaction. You look at the reaction. And nowhere do I see toxin gets formed and this little free radical gets formed. I don't see that. And this is passive. It doesn't need oxygen to get reuptake into the liver. It doesn't need oxygen. It just needs blood flow. It just needs blood. It needs water. and blood. And that's it. Oh. Your blood needs to be liquid. I hope it's liquid. If it's not liquid, I'd be concerned. Please go to a physician. Gets reuptake into the liver and gets reconverted into pyruvate and then reconverted back into glucose, in which case the cycle repeats itself. Where in the world was the toxin coming from? And where in the world are people getting that this stays in the muscle cell? Because it doesn't. It doesn't need to stay in the muscle cell. And it's not going to want to stay in the muscle cell because there's blood supply going through. The natural tendency is that blood supply is empty and it doesn't have any of this. Chances are it's going to go in, no matter what. You'll learn that in your chemistry class. It's called equilibrium. Well, technically osmosis, but don't worry about that. Or is it called osmosis? Because it's not dealing... I guess it... well, we'll figure that out later. But you get the idea. So it doesn't get stored in your muscle cells. So where is the confusion coming from of that this lactic acid is stored in your knots? Now, the first thing that I'm thinking of that might come from is because when you get a massage, sometimes you come out and you're like sore. A lot of people report soreness. So now me go ahead and show you something and what I think about that. And let me just go ahead and show you. So, here you are. Here's your big knot. Here's some blood supply. Your massage therapist is applying force onto that knot. So number one thing, when you think about your knot, and when you think about someone pushing on that knot, isn't it a little bit sensitive? Isn't it a little bit like, oh my god, I want to cringe kind of thing? And it's kind of a little bit painful. I mean, it's a good painful, but you're still kind of doing like this. You notice my body is kind of like going, oh, yeah. It's contracting. So if your muscles are contracting, doesn't it need oxygen? Doesn't it need blood supply to go in and produce ATP so that contraction can be possible? Yeah, of course. Didn't we discuss about that in terms of muscle contraction? But look, this massage therapist, for some reason, is standing on this knot, holding themselves on the knot, staying on the knot, and pushing, and pushing, and pushing on this knot. At the same time, aren't they pushing on that blood supply that's coming in? So isn't the blood supply getting lower and lower and lower and almost going to zero? Getting closer and closer to zero, but not actually approaching zero? You math majors, that should give you a ding 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 in your head. Limits? Yes, it's limits. Limits exist. Isn't that weird? The oxygen supply is getting lower and lower because this vein isn't delivering oxygen anymore, so it's getting lower and lower and lower, and you're contracting. In the presence of no oxygen, what happens to pyruvate? Doesn't it get converted in the presence of no oxygen to lactic acid? Oh! So what happens? Lactic acid is formed. Oh. So now my muscles are sore after a massage. That's why. That's the reason. At least that's what I think. I don't know what you think. It may be true, it may not be true, but that's what I think. And that's where I think a lot of the lactic acid is stored in the knots comes from. It could be possible that it's not stored in the knots, that this is the actual mechanism that's happening. So, there you go. There's the mechanism. That's my proposed mechanism. Hope you learned something. And you're more than welcome to come back and learn some more later. But that's it for now. Have a great day.